what used to be the biggest English-speaking parish in all of Canada, St. Willibrod's, 2 years ago only had 20 people coming to Sunday Mass. Used to be the biggest in all of Canada. 2 years ago, only 20 people coming to Sunday Mass. In the last 10 months, however, they have experienced a 700% increase in attendance. What happened? A different parish, St. Ignatius, in another part of Montreal, the most secular and anti-Catholic city in North America, after 5 years of focusing on the power of the Holy Spirit, the primacy of evangelization, and the best of leadership, has become such a vibrant community of faith that 27 of their top leaders volunteered to go and help revive the other location. I don't even know what it's like to have 27 leaders, let alone 27 of my top leaders volunteering to go belong to another parish to revive it so it doesn't have to close its doors. Remarkable. That's what I want. I hope that's what you want. Because the one parish chose to focus on forming lay apostles, they are now able to keep another parish from closing its doors. The same thing could be true for us someday. We could become so good at producing missionary disciples that we would be able to save other parishes in our diocese and then beyond. Imagine the possibilities if we had an army of lay apostles ready to serve the Lord wherever He called them to. But it will not be easy. Just as this letter to the Thessalonians is meant to strengthen the hope of those who have converted to Christ, so that despite their struggles here on earth, especially with the persecution coming from those who reject the gospel, they are to keep fighting the good fight, remembering that these are the last days before Jesus returns in glory. Something else is needed as well. We see it in the difference between the two groups of virgins in the gospel. Only 5 of them believe it is a very real possibility, not only that the bridegroom will come, but also that they will be chosen to enter the feast. And so they brought oil with them. They are open to this very real possibility, to what could happen. They were living with eager and hope-filled expectations that their lives could change this very day. It could happen. He could come. He could invite us into the feast. So let's be ready. Let's bring oil. That's the difference. That's their posture. That's their disposition. And they are called wise. Wise. That's what it looks like to be wise. Those seeking wisdom will be open to God showing up and doing something. And that openness is called wisdom. The others, the other 5, must not have believed that this was in fact a real possibility, because they did not bring oil with them. For them, it was like an empty formality. Maybe they were skeptical or cynical because of past experiences of having their hopes dashed so many times before. We don't know. But in any case, they were not open to what could happen. And so they missed out. They didn't believe that He was actually going to show up. They were just going through the motions. There is great power in being open to God. Sherry Waddell, celebrating the 10th anniversary of her groundbreaking work forming intentional disciples, has been reflecting on what they've been learning on the front lines since the release of this book, in all the work they do for the Catherine of Siena Institute with parishes. So for those parishes that are changing for the better, growing instead of dying, on a mission rather than simply maintaining status quo, she says, It's because they are open to God. And not just in general, oh yeah, I'm open to God. I go to church. I say prayers. They are open to God doing something. I am open to God changing my life. I am open to God healing my wounds. I am open to things looking different because God shows up, because God's on the move, and we're cooperating with him. That kind of openness. It's personal. It's lived. It's real. He's coming. He can do something. So these parishes that are changing for the better, they are praying for and working towards the spiritual renewal of their community of faith, along with tearing down all the strongholds of enemy spirits blocking the path forward. Things like fear. Things like fear. They're tearing down these strongholds of the enemy spirits. But most importantly, they're seeing lives change because more people, more regularly, more intentionally, are saying prayers of openness. And they're much simpler than you might imagine. I've included one in the bulletin. You can cut it out like this and put it somewhere where you'll see it. But basically, we just say, Dear Jesus, if you are listening, and if you truly do care about me, I am open to you being active in my life. Now again, we have to say it like the wise virgins, not the foolish ones. We can't just say it and go through the motions, but we have to say it with an expectant faith. God, I'm telling you, you can come and do something in my life. That takes courage. That takes openness. Dear Jesus, if you are listening, and if you truly do care about me, I am open to you being active in my life. I've also included some other things you could pray for. I am open to the real possibility of personal and spiritual change. I am open to following the insights you give me. I am open to receiving your healing power. I am open to being corrected by you. I am open to growing my ability to talk with you. I am open to learning how to walk with others towards you. We want to be a people who are open to God. We want to say prayers of openness and mean it and expect something to happen because we've said it with faith. We want to be praying prayers like this. So the challenge, and it's in the bulletin, for anyone who's willing to accept it, we would pray a prayer of openness like that once a day, every day, until Christmas, and see what happens. And write down what happens. And tell your friends and your family what happens. I'm especially curious what's going to happen in the lives of those who have the courage to say prayers of openness for an extended period of time. That's the challenge. This is how we can grow in talking with God. That's the first part of becoming a missionary disciple. Growing in our ability to talk with God. Very simple, very powerful. And the second, walking with others. Very simple, very powerful. It could look like this. If you're on a walk with a coworker, if you're out to coffee with a friend, if you're at the dinner table with your family, you can say, are you open to God being active in your life? And if the person says yes, then you say, would you say this prayer with me? Dear Jesus, if you are listening and you truly do care about me, I am open to you being active in my life. So we say that prayer with the person, and now we are walking with them towards Jesus. Now we are helping them be open to God. That's what it looks like. I know when I talk about evangelization, it's probably confusing or scary to many people, but I'm talking about taking someone out for coffee and asking them a question and being a good listener. And if it turns spiritual, ask them if they're open to God being in their life and say a little prayer with them. It's, I don't know how many words, 10 words. You could change somebody's life just by doing that. That's what I'm talking about. Talking with God, walking with others, becoming missionary disciples, making a difference in people's lives. As we conclude our parish study on the decree on the apostolate of the laity, The journey for us is just beginning. And I ask us to remember what St. John Paul the Great taught us. Do not be afraid. Open wide the doors to Christ, to his saving power. Do not be afraid. Open wide the doors to Christ, to his saving power. We've been at this for a while now, so I'm very curious how y'all are doing with it. What have you tried in terms of talking with God, walking with others? What's working? What's not working? What else are you thinking of trying? Who are you touching base with to compare notes? This is what it's going to look like. All so we can continue learning and growing and building momentum together. Being open to God, expecting him to show up, watching what he does, keeping in mind how important our young people are in all of this. And we're going to care more about our young people than we care about ourselves. That's part of this mission, because we're going to graduate missionary disciples. By the time they're 18, we want our young people to be missionary disciples. We want them to be experts at talking with God and walking with others. That means we need to guide them. We need to be doing it so we can show them. The church was founded for the purpose of helping everyone share in what Jesus has come to do for us, so that through them the whole world might enter a relationship with him. Which means, as Catholics, this is our primary mission. Sharing in what Jesus has come to do for us, so that the whole world might enter into a relationship with him. This is our primary mission, and this is what we're going to be doing. With our lamps ready and with plenty of oil, open to God actually showing up in our lives in very exciting ways.